Hi, everybody. It's Ken Rhola with Fresh and Alive. And today we have a very, very special guest, one of my absolute favorite people in the world. Even though I have not actually met her in person, I have been interviewed by her a few times, and I just absolutely adore this lady. Dr. Karen Kan is what I call a dream doctor. She is one of those very rare personalities who has made it through medical school and become an actual MD, and then went into other directions, into other amazing directions, which we're going to talk about. But she's definitely a very, very rare and special person, and definitely a very rare and special doctor. And and it turns out she's got a new book out, which is perfect. I was intending to interview her anyway, and so this kind of made it happen. So welcome, Karen. Say hello.
Hey, thanks, Ken, and thanks so much for sharing me, with your audience. And you've done some great work out there. I'm so glad there are people like you that we can connect with as medical doctors, science nerds, and energy type people. So this is wonderful and a great synchronicity that you're able to have this right at my book launch. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And that's the thing that impresses me about you. It kind of like me, you're very much the science geek. You're very much into scientific evidence, and at the same time, you're into meditation and off-world stuff, healing, all kinds of things. We're going to talk about that. But you're one of the very few people that I meet who really balances, I think, the right and left hemispheres of the brain, the intuitive and the scientific, the intellectual, the logical mind, and the empathic mind, and bridge both worlds. And that's a very rare thing to be able to do. So tell us a little bit, first of all, about how you went down this path. I know from an early age you had some, I guess you'd say maybe esoteric experiences, and you were probably, like me, different than most kids around you. And then, getting through medical school, and how you came down this path to where you're at now.
hmm Well, I think that in my culture, um, it was actually kind of rare for women to be well educated in Hong Kong. In fact, if you went to university back then, anyway, now it might be different, but back then, you would go to university to get your MRS degree, if you know what I mean. But my family came to Canada when I was about a year old, and so we, kind of adopted or at least tried to integrate both the Chinese culture and the Canadian culture, and that meant very very different things. So most people who are first generation in a foreign country will go and try to make sure that their children are really well educated. So for me, it was like get A pluses in school, so you have a choice of what career you wanted. And medicine is one of the top 5 choices, if you will, for Chinese first generation. And as the firstborn, as many medical doctors are, the firstborn, that's kind of the route that I chose. But when you were talking about, feeling different growing up, I think a lot of that was kind of colored by just being incredibly shy and not really understanding about this whole, being a highly sensitive person. I didn't really understand that concept. In fact, my mom is highly sensitive, and she was being made fun of by, my dad, my brother, different people. So I was trying not to be made fun of. So I really didn't honor that part of me that was sensitive. So I really hid a lot of who I was. And, I was one of those kids that would cry easily and would feel other people's pain. And, and it was really challenging because I got bullied a lot, which is common, as a sensitive person. And then, being Chinese in a primarily Caucasian town at the time, there was some racism and bullying because of that as well. So yeah, so I had definitely those challenges growing up. So medical school was actually one of those places where I was thrilled to be part of, because I could be more of myself, be smart, and that was okay, And I could interact with patients, and people really, really loved me as a medical doctor because I really listened to them, and I could feel and understand, their pain, and understand what they're going through, and that was a real benefit as a medical doctor. But what happened, Ken, was that after decades and decades of feeling other people's stuff, I didn't really realize that once I got stressed myself because of various things going on in my life, my marriage was falling apart at the time. My body couldn't take it anymore, couldn't take all that energetic, emotional burden and the stress. And so my body broke down near, I think it was 2001, ended up with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, autoimmune disease, depression, was even suicidal. At that point, I was really, really sick, and very, very unhappy. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me up until that point, which is the other book that you were holding, Guide to Healing Chronic Pain, a Holistic Approach, was really my story of navigating through all that, in both, balancing what I knew as a medical doctor, but also realizing that traditional medicine didn't have a lot of great answers, because most people with chronic pain, with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, they don't get better, unless they happen to know you or me, or somebody like us, right? So
Exactly.
yeah. So that's because of my own illness, I decided that I was going to explore outside of traditional medicine, because eventually I could either kill myself, which was an option I was entertaining, or I could do whatever it took to get better and listen to that calling within, like that spirit within saying there's a choice. So I ended up divorcing my husband, which is one of the things I had to do at the time, and going down this road of learning healing, and that meant nutrition and Chinese medicine and Reiki and spiritual healing and psychic development and all that kind of stuff. And the deeper down the rabbit hole I went, the more extraordinary my life became. So yeah, so here we are today.
And that just scratches the surface too. I mean, one of the things that impressed me about you, we were introduced by Darius Barazanda, who is an amazing person himself, and I was just blown away. And I got your book. I think you interviewed me, and then I got your book, which I want to show folks as Healing Chronic Pain. Boy, is this ever a misnomer. This book is more like how to run your body, how to maintain your health.
Yeah.
This is really like an operator's manual for the body. There's so much good information in there. Of course, it's targeting people in pain, but it's extremely comprehensive about all the things that you need to do to maintain your health in this crazy world, from nutrition to EMF protection and much more. And one of the things, usually when I get turned on to people's books and things, in the natural health realm, usually I don't pick up that much new stuff because I've been around doing this a long time. But this book was chock full of stuff that I didn't know. And one of the things you turned me on to was the LifeWave patches and David Schmidt, who now is like my second brother. Yeah, I'm so blessed and so thankful that you connected me. And interestingly enough, when you first connected us, David was living out in California, and it just so happened several months later he moved to Florida, about 45 minutes away from me. And so I invited him over for dinner and visit, and I was just shocked at how, I swear it was like we were separated at birth. I mean, this guy, everything that he was into, I was into, and he was aware of so much stuff that I was aware of, and more. I mean, so he just a really, really wonderful. And then you yourself, the things that you're into, which we're going to talk about, the things you do, the things that you help people with. I think what you do is the most important job on this planet, quite honestly, because yes, you cover healing, you cover physical healing, you cover emotional healing, you cover spiritual healing. But I think also what you're doing is helping people to break the programming and mind control on this planet in doing that process. And I think that's the biggest problem we have on this planet, is the majority of people on this planet are mind controlled. So, and we've got to break this programming. This is part, I think, of what is going on with all of the drama with COVID and the elections and everything else. We're in the accelerated program right now. So tell folks a little bit about what you do and how you're doing it. Because I've watched some of your interviews and YouTube videos, and it's amazing to me how on the one hand, you can talk about all this clinical healing, physical healing and stuff, and then at the same time, you can talk about meditation and spiritual stuff and ETs and all kinds of things. So what do you see as your mission and purpose in doing what you're doing, and what is it that you do?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. By the way, I'm super thrilled that you and David are now best buds, and I love putting very smart people together that can collaborate. And we're looking forward to what you guys create together. Okay, no, mom's the word. It's hush top secret stuff, but anyway, looking forward to it because I'm going to buy it, whatever it is. I'm going to buy it. Um, but Ken, I was looking for the research for the sensitivities or superpower book. Um, I was looking for the research of, what percentage of people, given the clinical studies, are considered highly sensitive, and there's a whole criteria for that based on Elaine Aron's work. And back in the 70s, I believe, 70s or 80s, it was about 20% of the population. So I actually emailed her people, and I said, I need to annotate that for the book, and I can't find the study. Could you please help me link the study for my book? So they took actually a number of weeks to get back to me and said, well, here is the most recent study. And wouldn't you know, it was 2018. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's even better, right? And the percentage in there was 30%, not 20%. So yes, I mean, it's a different population, different co-authors, of the study. But the funny thing is when I do, teach people how to connect with or tune into their inner wisdom or zero point, if you will, God source, whatever people want to call it, to get intuitive answers. I asked God, a while back, I said, well, according to Elaine's study, about 20% of people are considered highly sensitive. And some of these, who I call sensitive souls, I would like to know right now, in today's day and age, approximately what percentage is in that boat, in that camp, and the people that are like me, who can feel other people's stuff and sometimes don't know they're feeling other people's stuff. And God's answer was about 30%. So I think actually a little over 30%. So, and I feel it's growing. So I think that's very interesting that the study, which I didn't know had happened, actually corroborated what I was told, through my, meditative zero point connection with source, as what the answer is. So I help these 30% of people who may be suffering from oversensitivity. So they're overwhelmed, overstimulated, feeling alone and isolated because nobody understands them. They may be feeling other people's pain, having autoimmunity, even allergies, multiple chemical sensitivities, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, chronic fatigue. Doctors can't figure out what's going on with them. In fact, don't even want them to come to the office because they're so frustrating because they can't make them better. And what I do is I help them harness that sensitivity as what I call as a superpower, to use that gift, because it's actually a gift, not a curse, and to actually use it consciously, so that they can have the skill sets to use it for intuiting, to use it for healing, to use it for manifesting, instead of having to suffer from those symptoms. And the book Sensitivities or Superpower really is all about, how to do that from, step one to step whatever, is step by step, how to harness that sensitivity as a gift, rather than something that's a limiting factor. And I just want to help that 30%. And not to say that non-sensitives wouldn't get something out of the book, for sure, because they all have gifts as well. They just don't know, or may not be inspired to use those gifts because they don't have a problem. A lot of us have to have a symptom before we'll look for a solution, if you will. So that's what I do. I help them, feel calm, centered, connected, and feeling that community of other sensitive souls like them, that they can be supported, and so they can shine their light, and then we can pull the world out of darkness together.
Yeah, and I imagine you probably have been extremely busy with that in this year, with all of the COVID craziness and the election craziness and everything else. The energies are heating up on the planet, and looks like it'll continue to do so for the coming year. So I think that your book and your teachings are extremely timely and needed. And this is one of the reasons why I was really happy to hear from you and bring you on here, is I get so many emails from people that are just flipping out and afraid. And, even my own family, I've seen this when COVID happened, even though I've had, solutions for bioweapons and stuff for 15 years, everybody's flipping out, people that I think should know better. And so So what are you seeing with people with all of the intense stuff coming down right now, and what can they do to help be calm and be okay in the eye of the storm?
Yeah, that definitely is the magic question. We can't always control our outer circumstances. And I believe me, I've tried. I was one of those people, trying to be at the top of the class, top 10 medical school and get this award, that award, this accolade, that accolade, gold medal here, trophy here. I was always about striving, but never really feeling like I was arriving because my self esteem was so poor at that time. And now I can understand that, me trying to control the outside world so I would be okay is a completely nutty thing to do. Because I understand, from quantum physics, or my cursory understanding of quantum physics, is that whatever frequency and resonance I'm projecting out here then gets mirrored in my reality. Now we can have two very very stressful things, or we would judge as stressful things happening to different people, but one person may completely fall apart and the other person may have their reaction for sure, but then use as whatever is going on in their life as a stepping stone to the next stage of their evolution, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. And so I've chosen that path, and that's what I teach my students, clients. Is it's a choice. You can either try to control out here, which doesn't work, or you can control what's in here, or at least be responsible for your own resonance and frequency, so that whatever you're projecting doesn't add to the chaos of whatever everybody else is doing. And I have a saying, Ken, it's like the biggest energy wins. Now, I know some people are not arguing with that because they're like, well, gee, I think, Donald Trump was the biggest energy, so why didn't he win? I said, just wait, we'll see. We'll see. We don't know. But generally the biggest energy wins. So if you are big in your calmness, peace, love, and very stable and grounded in that space, then even if stressful events come your way, you handle that. And because this life, I mean, here we go, a little woo woo here, but this life is not the only life there is. So even if you die, there is still a you. There is still a you, a presence, your soul, if you will. So this isn't our first rodeo, and it won't probably be our last for many of us. So if we see the big picture, then we don't have to be so anxious about what's going to happen tomorrow, or with the election, or with COVID tests, or vaccines with nanobots in them, or whatever it is. I think each step is a choice, and even if you don't like something or don't prefer something, it doesn't mean you have to be reactive and freak out, because it's not helping the rest of us who are, really focused in our future reality that we do desire. So managing your own frequency and energy, which we go into great detail in the Sensitivity Superpower book, is really the crux or the key to us changing our future realities together.
Yeah, I agree. And, I can vouch for the fact that this isn't all there is. Or as G. Gordon Liddy once said, after he got out of jail for the Watergate break ins, he said he was actually being interviewed on the David Letterman show. And he said, Dave, we're all just food for the worms, meaning that, this is our only life. And once we die, we just blink out of existence. And I know that's not true personally, because I've had out of body experiences a ton. And I also had a near-death experience when I was 19 years old and had a motorcycle wreck, and I left my body. My body was dying, and I was leaving, heading out. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And that also really helps. Understanding the real nature of reality really helps to be calm in the eye of the storm.
Right.
And the work that you do helps to people to understand that. And so your book, to me, your book is like a preparation manual for 2021, really. I mean, I'm looking at it, really is. It's like it's like the field guide to 2021. And so I want to talk about some of the stuff that's in there, that you cover. For example, I know I've seen you talk before about the Tulpacon clearing method, and talk about that a little bit, because I know you mentioned that a few times in some of the work that you do.
Yeah, so the Topican healing method is a healing modality, And when I started with it, I'm a certified body code and motion code practitioner, and have had, Reiki master and all these different kinds of, esoteric trainings in the past. And so when I was developing this healing method, I didn't set out to develop a healing method. In other words, I was just, I was finding exceptions to some of the other healing methods I had that couldn't handle certain things, or to the degree that I needed for the people that were seeing me. So I started asking source direct questions like, how do I help this person? What do we do? Like, how many things are still in the way? And I started learning to ask what I call quality questions that maybe most people don't know to ask. So and I started getting really neat answers. And at first I thought, okay, maybe I'm just nuts, okay, because some of these answers are kind of weird. But wouldn't you know, people were getting better and they were getting results. So I finally had this conversation with the angels one day. And I remember I was sitting in the car, my husband was driving, we were doing long distance drive. And I just started getting this intuitive conversation going with the angelic forces and my what I call my God team. And I said, look, there's a lot of amazing energy healing modalities out there. Like, why bother creating another one? Because there are so many. Like, I could just refer people to this healing modality, this healing method, whatever, right? So the answer was two-part. One was that, and I really respected hearing this, was that creating this modality is that the reason is that some people will not, let's say, resonate or understand the other ways of dealing with a particular problem, but you have a way, Karen, of explaining it or training people or empowering people to do this on their own. And that way may be easier for them. So you may be one of the solution. And yes, there may be 100 other solutions, but you are the best fit for that person. And the second answer I got was that it's about my soul expression. So each of us have a role, or a play, a part in the play, if you will, in this timeline. And part of it is expressing our soul's desires. And so the healing modality became an expression of who I am and part of my soul evolution. So after hearing those answers to my question, I said, okay, I'm going to go for it, And the funny thing is, Ken, a lot of people don't know this, but the funny thing is, it says, well, I got to name it, and I don't want to name it my name. That's what I said. And the angels were like, oh, yes, you are. And I'm like, no. Because it's like, I see all the something system, and I'm the person's name, right? And I'm like, no. I think it's kind of egotistical. I don't want to have my name in it. And, and so I think they were giggling a little bit. They're like, no, we do want you to put your name in it because you feel uncomfortable. Okay.
It also imparts frequency into it.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, TKH is the short form for Topacan healing. Topa was interesting because again, a lot of people don't know this, but I can tell this to you, Ken, is that so I'm in this car and I'm online trying to figure something out because the angels are telling me, well, I said, is there a name for this, what I'm doing? And they said, yes. And the answer was some sort of crop circle. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about crop circles. So I'm like searching crop circles and I'm going, is it this one? Is it this one? Is it, finally I found one. It was this tiny thing out of like this humongous poster with crop circles. And that was it. And I'm like, well, I don't even know how to pronounce that in English, right? So that was the Tulpa part. And the idea basically is that what we imagine in stillness can be created in the three-dimensional world. So our imagination is really that seed of creation. And so with the frequencies, what we call Topacan healing frequencies, we can actually use that innate human talent and put a really defined and definitive pathway for people to be able to manifest healing and greater things in their life. And then I found out later that I, in another timeline, was a Lemurian called Alien, and some sort of healer in that timeline. And I was supposed to help the world as an Earth evolve through these frequencies, which originated with the archangels and now have since been expanded by other light beings and other, wonderful things and energies. But at the time, I was going to, spread this through a crystal to the world. And unfortunately, at least in that timeline, Lemuria got destroyed before I got to finish my mission. So I ended up incarnating in this human body to finish that mission, which I already have. So we're on to different missions now. But almost everyone has the capability of doing Topocan healing. They just need to be trained.
So speaking of that, do you find that it's more challenging, or do you have certain techniques for working with people that are very left brain, logical minded, and maybe not so empathic and intuitive? Because I know people that are living in their left brain, a lot of this stuff just sounds like a bunch of woo woo.
Yeah, I think because of the medical background, because I really love science and nerdiness, I really like systems and structure. So, for example, what's different about, and all healing modalities, I mean, there's a benefit that some people will resonate more to Reiki or more to, reconnective healing or more to theta healing or more to Topocan healing. I think everyone has their match. But because I have that left brain, I think part of it, and thanks to Dr. Brad and the Mosh Code and Body Code, you can actually put answers on a matrix. So I have 3 healing guides. Well, actually, I have 4 if you include the ones for the level 2 people, which are just protocols. So I know it's hard to see on the video, but I have the healing guides. This is not part of the Sensitivities or Superpower book. The actual healing modality is something separate, and it's a course that people can learn. But because I kind of marry that left brain doctor part with the right brain intuitive part. We actually use very systematic ways of finding the answers and then support people, to ask the right questions and find their own yes, no answers, if you will, from divine source. So it becomes more methodical in a way. And for the left brain people who are looking to, expand their intuition or use a modality to help them with healing, this one happens to require less, if you will, natural talent because some people are just like, well, I met an intuitive, she's amazing and she can say all this stuff, but I can't do that. And then they're stuck because they can't do what the healer can do. My job is to help everyone become their best healer. So, I mean, it's a little bit more advanced training than what we're training in the book, but the skills that you learn in this book will actually help you be able to do that if you so wish to learn Topocan healing, because you already will have the foundation to do the healing method.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of the stuff in the book, because this is what blows me away. I mean, some of the things in this book, I'm just amazed that it's there. For example, etheric cord cutting. You and I know when you get out in front of the public eye, particularly when you're live in front of an audience, a lot of time people will attach to you. They'll attach their energies to you and kind of hook these hooks or cords into you. And I had to learn a long time ago that when I do those kinds of events, sometimes I have to clip the cords. You've actually got a section in your book about etheric cord cutting, and then transformational telepathy and intuitive impressioning. Discuss this a little bit about these ideas and these concepts. This is really fascinating to me.
Yeah, so transformational telepathy is, there's a couple of different levels or sophistication of doing that. And one of the things that I did long ago was there's a patient that came in the stories in the book. The patient came in and he had fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. He was in no condition to help anybody else, really. He was really struggling himself, but he was in a really bad space one day. I said, "What is going on with you?" And he says, "Well, I just heard from my son. He just tried to kill himself. He's in the hospital and I don't have money to visit him. I don't have money to give him. He's going to lose his job. What am I going to do?" And he was just like, did not sleep, which is horrible for people with fibromyalgia. I mean, you have to be able to sleep to heal. So I was like, uh-oh. So he was in a big pickle and he didn't know what to do. He was completely stressed out, not sleeping. And I said, "Well, there is something I can teach you to do. It's going to be free. And if you do this, this is going to really help your son, but you have to be willing to do it." And he said, "I'll do anything. I'll do anything," right? And so what I got him to do, and I explain more detail in the book, but basically what I got him to do was to write down every day 10 things he appreciated about his son and really feel that appreciation. You write it, you feel it, in your body as if it's happening. And I said, will you be able to do this, or are you committed to it? She goes, yes, I will do it. If you think, I don't know how that's going to help, but if you think it's going to help, Dr. Karen, I'm going to do it. I said, yes. So 30 days straight. So he went to work, and he texts or email me, so can I repeat one, and I said, yeah, well, yes, you can repeat one if you have that feeling of that appreciation, but your son really well, so I'm sure you can think of 10 different things every day. So he did that, and it was a couple of weeks later, 2 3, can't remember how many weeks later, that we had the follow-up appointment, and the first thing he walks in the room, I said, how's your son? He goes, my son? What about my son? I said, the son that you told me about last time you were here, that was in the hospital for depression and trying to kill himself. He goes, oh, he's fine. Okay, like, thanks for telling me. Like, he goes, oh, he's fine. I said, well, did he have to go on medications? Oh no, they discharged him. Oh, he's back to work full time. He's fine. And the patient was completely fine too. But the thing was, it was healing the patient at the same time it was healing the son. And you're like, well, we didn't have permission to send energy healing to the sun. But what happens is when we think good thoughts about another person, as kind of in the quantum realm, there's a connection. And it's like the person is feeling the love, if you will. They don't even know consciously who they're feeling the love from. But what happens is when you meet that person again, they have yummy, like positive feelings around you. And what I found transformational telepathy really good for is conflict. So if you have an argument with someone, misunderstanding, you're not talking, I can't tell you how many times it's gotten me out of trouble. Sometimes I can be very strict on certain things, and it can really piss people off. So yeah, I remember one time there was, I don't mind being the bad guy. So I was the one that we had this dance performance, and I was one of the drummers, and one of the dancers kept not showing up to practice. And the thing was, we had the performance like 2 days or 3 days, right? So she was gonna mess up, if she didn't know. So nobody wanted to talk to her about it, right? But the rules were you have to show up to practice or else you can't be in the show. That everyone knew the rules. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be the bad guy. So I, emailed her and I said, look, you haven't been to practice, here are the rules. If you don't show up to the last practice, we can't really have you in the show. Oh my gosh, that did not go well. She got pissed off. She says, don't you understand what I'm going through, my child and and my life. And she's a single mom, And so I thought, oh boy, that didn't go well. So I was like, okay, so I get to see her, in 2 days for practice if she shows up. And I thought, okay, Karen, do your thing, do what you tell all your clients to do. So I settled down and I did transformational telepathy, and I did a little bit more advanced version, which we're going to talk about. I talked about a little bit during the launch workshop, and that is really talking to her as if she's in front of me, but really understanding and empathizing from her point of view. And that's a little bit of intuitive impressioning as well, is feeling into the space of someone that you wish to empathize with. And so I could speak to her in that space of empathy and say things like, and I was writing it down, which is I tell people to do, but in more advanced, if you hold that frequency of appreciation, you don't have to write it down. You just have to be very, good at it and trained in it. So I just, told her, hey, I appreciate what a great mom you are. You're trying your best for your daughter. I know you're doing the best you can. We'd really love for have you in the show because you are an amazing dancer. You love to dance. I love your energy. I love your passion for this. And I'm just seeing that we are all, having fun and doing this fundraiser, and and we really want you to be part of it, right? So what happens is, so I see you the next day. She gives me the 2 days later for the for the last practice, and she gives me this huge smile, and I'm thinking, did anybody see that? Like, because people were CC'd on that email. They knew how pissed she was, right? So she gives me a big smile. So in practice, she is so good. She practiced so hard at home. She was telling the other dancers what to do. She rocked the stage, and we had an amazing performance and raised money, for this charity and all this kind of stuff. And, at the end of that practice, I said, I'm so proud of you. And she goes, thank you. She gives me this huge hug. We give a huge hug. End of story, peace. Wow. So some people, when they have this conflict, what they want to do is they want to run away. right? They just want to like avoid the person, right? And I used to be that because I could feel their stuff as well as my stuff. It was tough. But this way, you can transform the relationship so you have no friction to anyone in your life.
Man, we are on the same page. I'll tell you, because I've had several people threatening me and stalking me and stuff in the past, and that's exactly what I did. I used meditation, Ho'oponopono, and all kinds of stuff to
Nice.
connect with the people in the etheric and to help them understand and help them heal and help me understand. And it works every time. It's amazing. It's like magic. I mean, it is magic,
Yeah.
really.
It's a great place to be, right? Because chances are if you're living a human experience, there's going to be at least one person you piss off or vice versa.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we would just kind of like throw those aside, right? Okay, we'll just ignore that person. Don't talk to that person. But inside, we're still harboring those negative emotions and those negative judgments. But if we can see things from their point of view based on, how they grew up, their fear, there's a quote by Deepak Chopra about, how everyone's doing the best they can based on the level of consciousness they're at, right?
Right.
Then we don't have to have this friction. And I'm all about harmony. Harmony is big for me. So I think if we can do this within ourselves, then that's the seedling from which we can create world peace and harmony.
Now, here's something else I see in your book that I do. I've done it my whole life. And I think it's what's really helped me to manifest the life that I want. You've got a chapter here on intuitive impressioning and particularly feeling into the future realities and tuning into others. Man, my whole life I've done that. It's like not just envisioning the future, but actually like going to the future and seeing it and feeling it, and then also bringing it back into the present. So talk about that as how you understand it, how you work it, and tuning into others.
Hmm. In the book, we kind of settle it into like two different uh, um, ways of using the skill set I call intuitive impressioning. One is feeling into future potential realities to help people make a more informed decision. In the example in the book, I believe I use like one of my young people that I mentor couldn't afford to literally fly to all 5 colleges, that he wanted to visit to see which one was best. And I said, look, I know you can't afford to do this, but if you would allow me, let me just share with you a technique that you can kind of go there without going there. And he goes, okay, so I just had him tune in to the how it feels to be in each of those campuses, to eat the food, the people, the town, the buildings, all that kind of stuff. And so I said, if you've got some pictures, online, you want to put like, together. I said, you have two choices. You can do it through your left brain, which was very left brain. So left brain would be to put a chart up, pros, cons, right? And put all the names of the universities and then write down all the pros, write down the cons. I said, that's going to take you 5 times longer. But if you do it this way and you just feel into it, you'll be able to make the correct decision. And he did. So he said, I'm really feeling Florida. Like this is, I'm just have a good feeling about this. I said, awesome, go for it. And he did. And he loved it. He loved the campus. He loved the people, like it was a great decision. He saved, I don't know how many thousands of dollars of money that he would have spent trying to physically go to these places and make that choice. So he's able to tune in and find which one of these spaces felt the best to him. And then the other way we use intuitive impressioning is feeling into a particular person. Now, that may sound kind of invasive to some people, but I got to tell you, your sensors are on all the time, a lot of times, especially with sensitive soul. So you need to actually harness and hone it to a narrower frequency. So you use it when you are doing something for the highest and greatest good. So in other words, if somebody says, well, gee, I would love to know what to get my mother-in-law for Christmas, right? So this is one of the things you can do by tuning into how they might feel or potentially feel. You're empathizing with them. So empathy might be a little less triggering word. So we're empathizing with their space and where they're at to see what they would like. And I tend to have really good, not perfect, but really good results with this. In fact, we have about 39 plus endorsements from wellness leaders, colleagues, healers, friends of mine for the book. And one of the things that my book publisher taught us is that, well, you can pre-write some of the endorsements and see if they like any of them. They can change it, write their own, or keep it as is. So instead of just writing a generic one for each person, what I actually did was I did intuitive impressioning. So I tuned into them, what I knew about them, and even some of them, a couple of them I didn't know as well as the others. So I went to their website and just felt into the amazing job they were doing, and then would write from their voice. So I would say over 90% of the people that I did this for pretty much almost did not change, the endorsement. They're like, oh my God, this sounds exactly like me. Wow, this is amazing. Yeah, use that one, and it saved us a lot of time. So being able to do intuitive impression can be really handy because it saves you time. People want to, figure out what's the best day to ask for a raise, or what to get their mother-in-law or whatever. It's super handy. And you've been doing it naturally all your life.
Yeah, that is so, so true. You, like me, we like empirical, hard scientific data and analysis, particularly, if I'm going to be recommending supplements or something like that. I do the science on them, I get them analyzed. But it's like you said, I save huge amounts of time by intuiting, just looking at the overall frequency of what's involved with a particular supplement or therapy or whatever, and then making the decision whether or not to invest my time in doing the analysis. And it saves me huge amounts of money and time. And I'm always right. I hate to say it, but I'm always right. When I get the analysis back, it's like, well, it's exactly what I expected. And so that's exactly it. It's a real time saver. And it's so exhausting if you're living in the left brain, having to do everything by logical deduction. You're never going to get anywhere. It's a huge, it's a huge effort and time saver to do that.
Piling up on us. There's so much information, not including, of course, everything they censor so you can't find it anymore. But generally speaking, there's a lot of information. And so if you're just using the left brain, it's going to take way too long.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many amazing chapters in your book. It just blows me away. For example, healing by proxy. Years ago, I met a man named Dr. Art Martin who learned the Tibetan technique for healing by proxy. And he got results. He got amazing results. So talk about healing by proxy.
Yeah, so this particular chapter called Healing by Proxy Prop was actually a live workshop in my Light Warrior training camp. And that training camp got canceled at the Omega Institute because of the whole COVID 2020 thing. And, so I just did it once at the Omega Institute and had a great turn. I mean, it was amazing. And I thought, you know what, I really want people to have this information. So I included it in the book. In fact, the book has a lot of I would say 90% of the Light Warrior training camp is in the book, because I couldn't train face-to-face anymore, And so this one, Healing by Proxy Prop, what we do is we get a doll or stuffed animal, and it represents the person that you wish to heal. So we have, we teach in the class about, getting people's permission and things like that. So in the live class, what happens is people pair up, and then they each have brought a doll from home, and what happens is that we go through a step-by-step procedure, and what happens is that the doll then represents the person you're healing. And because in this day and age, sometimes it's a little dicey to physically touch people if you're not a medical doctor or a licensed healthcare professional, what we do is we have people touch the doll and feel the energy in their hands to balance and reharmonize the energy field. And the person who is receiving the healing actually sets what the intention they would like. They would like help for their knee or help for their MS or whatever it is. And then we have the healer actually work on the doll itself and harmonize the energies and learn to feel, these things. And I remember at Omega in the Light Warrior training camp, we had some real newbies. Like they were brand new to energy healing and this esoteric stuff, like very new, but they felt drawn to be there. They didn't know why they had to be there, but they used their own intuition to be there. So they were really a little bit scared and nervous because they're thinking, I've never done energy healing. I don't know how this is going to work. How is this going to work, right? But they're like, okay, well, I guess I'll try it, So they kind of, did the exercise. We brought them through it. They started really focusing on the doll, And afterwards, it amazed them that the partner that they were with was telling them all the different things they felt in their body. This felt lighter, and then this energy moved, and this happened, and this happened. And the newbies were blown away. Like, they really didn't think they were doing anything positive. They were just kind of like, well, I think I feel something here. But the person receiving had these huge aha moments or shifts, and to the point where some of these newbies were in tears because they didn't realize that the power they had within to make a difference in someone's life.
Absolutely. And I think that's true for all of us. We forget how powerful we are. And of course, at every turn, the powers that be are trying to remind us that we're not powerful. And so, yeah, absolutely. And again, it sounds far-fetched for somebody who's never experienced this, to be operating through like a third party or an object or something to heal something else or have an effect on something else. But the bottom line is you get results, and it's not placebo effect. You can get results on water. For example, Peter Shank's software, where you can project consciousness into water at a great distance. And you're very familiar with that. I think you've interviewed Peter.
Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah. So, the bottom line is it doesn't matter what you believe about it as long as you get results. So, don't knock it until you've tried it.
Right, and we kind of like the sciencey proof as well. I know sometimes it's difficult to prove things, like, how do I prove that I moved a hurricane, right? Like, I can say I did it, I can tell you how I did it, but and you could see that the hurricane went this way, right? But can I prove that I was the one that really made it do that? It's really hard to do that. Now, the interesting thing is the universe, and we do have a chapter, as you know, on chapter 13 on weather magic in the book, how to influence the weather. But, the universe will, because sometimes us healers also doubt ourselves as well, a little bit, less so now. Did I really do that? Did we really do that? And the universe will give us those synchronicities or signs to tell us, yes, yeah, yes, that was what you helped with. So, for example, there was one, I can't remember, I think it was Hurricane, there were so many we did, but Hurricane Matthew, I think that was the one. And the funny thing, there was an article, usually when the hurricanes dissipated or moved or whatever and doesn't hurt a bunch of people, the news stopped following it. Like, they don't care anymore, right? But in this case, there was a journalist who said, hey, Hurricane Matthew, don't quote me on which one it was because there's so many we did. But anyway, this one hurricane, I remember, so it was going right for Boca Raton, Florida. Maybe not Matthew, maybe I'm mixing two stories. But anyway, there was one hurricane was going straight for Boca Raton, Florida. There was a student of mine in there, and they said, please, I need weather magic. If you guys could pray for us, because we're supposed to be under 8 feet of water by whatever it is, 2 days from now. Right. And I said, you got it. Right. So we all did weather magic. And what was fascinating was the eye of the hurricane broke into two and went around her. I mean, it was just incredible. Incredible. Just went around. She goes, we got a little rain, but nothing. She's like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. And
well, I'll tell you something. I had a little hand in that. I remember talking to you about that a long time ago. Because, as you know, I've got the home shield device that's a scalar energy device that puts out a scalar vortex, and it will actually stop hurricanes at 75 miles away. And so we've got these all along the east coast of Florida now. And I also know that people all over the world, and especially Florida, meditate and do weather magic. And it does work. It absolutely does work. You can prove that it does. This is why Native people around the world have done things like rain dances and get into ceremonies, because we individually are fractal antennas. We're scalar energy fractal antennas. We capture this energy from the cosmos and from the earth, and we rebroadcast it, and we can create a scalar vortex, and that can definitely affect the weather. And I've done it. I've gotten together with people in circles and just created a scalar vortex and changed the weather. I was at a meditation one time with a bunch of Native Americans and 500 people attending a conference. And we went outside and got 500 people in a circle in the middle of South Dakota in the big sky country, not a cloud in the sky. And we meditated in a circle of 500 people in this big field. And in 5 minutes, we created a cloud, or I should say like a cloud ring, There was like a smoke ring about 200 feet above us that was there for the whole hour that we stood there and meditated. And as soon as we broke up, it disappeared. So we absolutely can modify the weather. And we do. As a matter of fact, we create the weather individually and collectively. We create the weather. Our emotions, our consciousness, this energy we're putting off, the scalar waves, it's all the time affecting the environment and the atmosphere. And so if we're conscious about it, that's why I was so blown away when I saw weather magic as a chapter in your book. It's like, she understands this stuff too.
That's great.
You know,
well,
we can use devices or we can use our biology to do this. It absolutely works.
One of the funny things I had at one time, my girlfriend was in San Diego, and I think part of the story is in there as well. And she, so this was very early on, and I was saying to Jean Ann, she was posting pictures of more and more fires and fires she has to evacuate and all this stuff. I said, look, she says, can you help? I said, I can help, but you're gonna have to do your part. And she says, well, you're like connected to angels and stuff, so can you have them do something? I said, yes, and we need you to do your stuff too. She goes, what do you need me to do? I said, well, for the first thing is I'm going to have you stop posting those pictures on Facebook. Okay. And I want you to picture what it is you do want rather than focusing on what you don't want over and over and over and over again. Can you do that? She goes, yeah, I can do that. Okay. So we'll get to where I said, what do you physically need done actually? She goes, well, in order for the planes to drop the water, the Santa Ana winds are in the way, they can't drop the water. I said, so you need the winds to stop. She goes, yes, it'd be so great if the angels could stop the wind. I said, got it, right? So we did do that. And the funny thing is I wanted a little extra. So I thought, well, I'm just going to make it freaking rain in San Diego, right? So I'm picturing rain. But the thing is, I'm not very good with geography. So I didn't actually picture rain in San Diego because I didn't really know what San Diego looked like back then. So I'm just picturing rain. And you know what? The next day in Lake Placid where I live, it was thunder, lightning, huge deluge of rain. And people were like, there was nothing on the weather report. Like, what's going on? And I was like, sorry.
Yeah.
So a little bit more precise now, but
and I'll tell you again, people,
weddings, parties, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, people have a hard time believing this stuff. And I'll tell you a little story about it. Dr. Joe Mercola is a friend and a neighbor of mine. He lives about a half hour north of me. And when he first moved to this area, I gave him one of my home shield devices. And I said, hey, look, this will protect you in various ways, EMF and spiritual attacks and hurricanes and stuff. And he absolutely didn't believe it. He thought it was all nonsense, but he took it, why not? So he put it out in his yard and he thought it was just a bunch of nonsense until Hurricane Matthew came along. And, Hurricane Matthew went up the east coast of Florida. It was projected to, hit, like you were talking about, Boca Raton and South Florida and tear it all up and come up the state and go along like the I-95 corridor. And it didn't. It stayed exactly 75 miles offshore because we've got home shields all along the east coast of Florida. And there are tons of people meditating on this as well. And so anyway, it passes by his house. And he, being Joe Mercola, he's got this kind of apocalyptic bunker in his house where he doesn't lose power. He's got generators and solar and all this stuff, and he's got like an EMP proof room. So he never lost power. He never lost internet. He was watching the storm, real live Doppler radar as it passed by. And he showed me, actually, he took screenshots and sent it to me, like the 6 mile radius right around his house. There was no strong wind, no damage. The roads and other places, like the beach was eroded in other places from the winds, but no major damage. And around his 6 mile radius around his house, like no damage at all. And I've seen this in other places. Like we had another doctor in Puerto Rico, same thing. Hurricane went right over Puerto Rico. The eye went right over. So the whole hurricane just went right over it. And he said he couldn't believe it. No wind around his house for miles around his house, just, light wind. And of course I have them here at my house. So we see this here in Florida. So we absolutely have the ability to protect ourselves. Many years ago, I was taught by Barbara Marciniak, who channeled Pleiadian entities to create a white bubble of light around your property when severe weather was coming through. And I've always been just fine when all this, stuff was destroyed around. My property was fine. So we absolutely can improve the weather. Now, I want to get on to another chapter in your book called Travel Magic, because this is extremely pertinent with COVID and airplane flying and all this stuff. Now, talk about what what you're doing here with travel magic?
Well, travel magic uses the same three main steps as we do for weather magic. And so the nice thing is, like, the basics of the skill sets are very similar in many of the chapters and many of the how to do, instructions. So weather magic, traffic magic, travel magic. So it's all about being able to create the future reality that you desire in a very short period of time. So I have found personally that before I understood these concepts, that whenever I would travel, I hated traveling. That was a problem right then and there because I hated it, right? So there's a lot of energy, hate. So I hated traveling because something would always go wrong. There's the negative mindset. And I'd be rushing to the gate and there'd be a big long lineup and, I wouldn't have the right cash. I mean, whatever it was back then. And then I realized I'm creating this. So with travel magic, what you're doing is you're getting into that stillness space, which we teach you right at the beginning of the book. And then you're actually creating your future reality as to what you see in the future. And that could be, could be, and then stuff happens. So it's not like it's 100% that you get to control everything, because sometimes bad things need to happen for the greater good, even though it doesn't seem like it's a good thing to you. So sometimes I'll be stuck at an airport for a short period of time and go, well, some things for the highest grade is good. That's why I'm here. So what else can we do? Right. And so I'll start imagining the weather changing, or that as I travel, like now, what I do is I imagine like I'm at my destination, all my bags are with me, right? And how I want to feel during the whole trip, and even on the fly, it's really neat that one can do this. Like, for example, I might be in a lineup at the border, and using intuitive impressioning, I can actually choose which line to go to, like who's the better, residents. And we'll get there, but I'll actually go and do like a healing, and I'll just see the traffic flowing in my mind. And then oftentimes it takes upwards about 10 minutes, but so what happens is that reality starts manifesting in the real world very, very quickly. So these are all skill sets that people can master and even teach to their children, and I really hope they do.
Mm. I have a little travel magic tip. A few years ago, I was speaking at a conference, and I was on a speaker's panel with a Buddhist monk, and he was awesome. And I was so impressed with him that I took his class at the conference, and then I wound up going to his office after the conference and doing private session with him, and then doing phone sessions with him for a while. And he taught me some really cool Buddhist techniques for doing all sorts of things, including purifying food and water. And so when I travel in airports, once in a while, the only water that I can find are these really toxic bottled waters from the big soda companies, and they put some god awful stuff in there. And so I learned that I can actually, project my energy around the water and into the water and transform it. Right now, it's one thing to say that, but when this Buddhist monk was teaching me this technique, when I was in his office, he actually gave me some really nasty Los Angeles unfiltered tap water. And I've analyzed LA tap water, so I know exactly what's in it. It's god awful. And then he also had some nasty GMO snacks and stuff. And so we did this meditation over it and transformed it. And I swear, this is actually a parlor trick that he likes to do when he goes to hotels and the restaurants and bars. He'll go and make people's wine taste better for them, which is really hilarious to watch because it's really noticeable. So anyway, he had all these he had wine and he had this nasty tap water and these GMO snacks and stuff. And we meditated on it for like 2 minutes, and it radically transformed the taste of them all. And so when I got back home, we were doing this again over the phone. And I said, you know what? I've got test equipment here at my house. I can analyze this stuff. So we did this meditation on this water, and then I measured it and tested it, and it raised the pH from 6.5 to 9.5 in 2 minutes. Wow. And changed the total dissolved solids, lowered the total dissolved solids, and it structured the water homeopathically, meaning it changed the water molecule clustering. So when I froze it, the water molecule, the crystallization pattern was radically different. So in 2 minutes, you can make radical changes to water or food. And that really helps when you're traveling and you're stuck, eating food that, may not be optimal for you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great story. And one of the things that I have a program called the Light Warrior Boot Camp, and created these energy infused MP3s, Ascension 1 and 2, to help people as a tool, so they can direct these positive energies to whatever it is they choose. And at least at that time, the MP3 format, I could not put both Ascension 1 and Ascension 2 in it. So, but I asked God in this, convoluted way, like, how do I do that? And so you could infuse it into crystal. So crystal will hold both those taking away frequencies as well as positive morphic fields. So we actually ended up with a jewelry line called the Ascension 3. And so we have the positive morphic fields of all the Ascension 1, Ascension 2, which are intention-based, healing. And then we've actually included specific frequencies of Hiddenite, Flower of Life, and the Schumann frequency. And Energy Tools International is the science people that I use, because they can copy frequencies. And Yuri Krohn is another brainiac like you are.
Yeah,
And,
I've met those folks and talked to them online, and they're absolutely amazing. I love them.
yeah, so they actually helped me professionally infuse all those frequencies into the jewelry. So I sent this off to Switzerland. I didn't know you did this, but anyway, so I sent it off to Switzerland to a company who was trained by Dr. Emoto's people in Japan on how to take frozen samples. So they would have distilled water, and there would be no particular structure to the distilled water. And then they would do a healing on the water or whatever device people had, and then they would retake the picture. So I said, well, I'd love for you to test the jewelry for me. So I sent her a necklace, and she says, okay, well, I'll put the necklace next to the water overnight and I'll test it in the morning. I said, no. God said 9 seconds. And she goes, seconds? Did you say seconds? I said 9 seconds. So she said, okay. And so I just taught her to, make an intention, and she just decided, whatever intention she wanted, she said healing. So she, grabbed the necklace, followed the instructions, said healing, and then looked at the water for 9 seconds. And then that was it. And then they froze the water, and then they were able to show it goes from, no structure to a number of different structures, which was really funny because, Ken, you probably know the significance of this more than me, but one of the photos they actually gave me was a pentagon. Now, I didn't actually know how rare that was until somebody pointed it out. They said a pentagonal ice crystal is very rare.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's the whole idea behind penta water.
Yeah, I was like, that is super interesting, because I wasn't knowing what to expect, and I didn't even know if 9 seconds would work, but I thought, well, that's what God told me, so I'm just going to go with it. And worst case scenario, you don't see any crystals, we can do it longer. So anyway, so it's pretty neat how the frequencies, right, can be shared and directed with our attention and change the actual molecular structure of something.
And it makes sense too that it changed the structure of the crystallization structure, because crystals are oscillators, so they're actually oscillating frequencies, and they're used all the time in electronics for that purpose. So it makes sense that you would see those kind of results.
Yeah, and it's because in my Lemurian life, we were using I don't know what kind of crystal it was, but it was a big blue crystal that I saw in my mind's eye that we were using to impart or spread the frequencies, the healing frequencies, to the world. But right now, with the current age of ascension, if you will, we don't need the crystals anymore. Like when I first started attuning people, I would have to touch them, either their heart or their hand, and they touch their heart, and we would do it one person at a time, just like Reiki. We would just attune each person individually. And I couldn't do it online. I couldn't do it remotely. Like it was like one-to-one. But then things shifted and changed with the ascension process of the planet. So instead of doing it one-on-one or with a crystal as an in-between, as a conduit, we don't need the crystals anymore. So you can do it at the level of thought now, which is really exciting.
Yeah. Well, we got to wrap it up. We've been going a little over an hour, and I could go for 4 hours or more with you. We'll definitely do this again. We'll definitely do this again. But first of all, and we'll put your all your contact information in different places in this video. But first of all, I know people can get your book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower, and your other book. Let me show people this other one, A Healing Guide to Healing Chronic Pain, and on Amazon. But where should people go to, number one, get your book, and then also tell us your website?
Yeah, so for the book launch, we actually have a special site. It's sensitivityisyoursuperpower.com, just the title of the book. So sensitivityisyoursuperpower.com. And there we have actually gathered many of my healer friends and wellness leaders have actually donated some high value gifts so that when people buy the book for during launch week, 99 cents on Kindle or $14.99 on paperback, which is $5 less than what it's going to be later on, they can actually get these free gifts valued at over $1,000. So there's MP3s and trainings and MP4s and PDFs and all these high value things to really like, hey, it's 99 cents and you get these bonus gifts as kind of a no-brainer. So we're hoping that people can just kind of spread the word, and so we can help as many people as possible, so people can learn how to harness their own internal gifts. And like you said earlier, one of the biggest infections, if you will, of what's going on in the world is mind infections, like mind control. Well, when you are in your body, you feel yourself, you know yourself, you literally become impervious to that, which is very exciting to me.
That's absolutely right. And your website is KarenKan.com?
Yes. Yep. And then the book site is sensitivityisyoursuperpower.com.
Okay. And do you work with individuals or can people work with you?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, actually, so I have the Topocan Healing Method as a level 1 training program so people can learn to heal themselves. There's actually, at this time of the recording, a mini VIP program where people can get one-on-one sessions with me in addition to that. And then we have a level 2 training for people who wish to be practitioners of the healing modality. And so they do a lot of the one-on-one work. And I take, as far as one-on-one clients, I take probably 3 or 4 per quarter, so not many anymore. Most of my time is spent on, teaching a bigger group. So we have lots of different self-healing programs, as well as some live programs that come up from time to time where people can participate and and learn. And in my Light Warrior Network group, which is currently on Facebook, people can go to lightwarriornetwork.com. We actually do a mini healing for a whole hour every single month. So people write in what their issues are, and then we kind of demonstrate the Topocan Healing Method and do kind of group and individualized healing for free. Yeah, every month. And so people can get a taste of, their energy, their power of self-healing, and get used to, how you can do energy healing on this level. So it's really, really fun.
Yeah, and I highly recommend people to go to your website, again, KarenKan.com, and get on our mailing list. I'm on your mailing list, and I absolutely look forward to every email. And you do some amazing interviews with people as well. So I highly recommend that to folks.
Yeah.
Check out your books. I just bought your book, Sensitivity is Superpower, and I can't wait to get it. Looking at the chapters, it's just awesome. We're definitely on the same page.
That's great, Ken. I'm so happy to know you.
Likewise. It's been a great gift knowing you, and hopefully, you can come down here to Florida for a winter vacation or something sometime and visit my wife, who's Chinese from Taiwan.
Oh, really? Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. We just we had a Thanksgiving get together, and we made Chinese dumplings and all kinds of Chinese food. Yeah,
well, that's great. Okay. Yeah.
All righty, dear. Well, good luck with your book launch and with everything that you do. We'll definitely be checking back in with you sometime, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Much appreciation to you, Ken. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.